The New York Times has been reporting that CIA paramilitary teams have been ordered to infiltrate Venezuela. Now, for his part, the besieged socialist dictator of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, claims his security forces have already captured some of America's CIA paramilitary troops. That sounds like some provocative propaganda, maybe. Elements of America's elite 160th Special Operations Airborne Regiment, or SOAR, has also been deployed to the area, and the Venezuelans are claiming that U.S. Special Forces are already inside of Venezuela. With 11 U.S. Navy warships, including the newest, most advanced aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, as well as 15,000 U.S. Marines off the coast of Venezuela, we have to ask, what can we expect in the coming weeks militarily? This seems more than just a show of force. And if it is more than that, what are some of the things? I mean, what does this look like? The CIA paramilitary teams and special forces units that will be doing the run up to maybe any kind of conventional invasion of Venezuela by U.S. forces. To help us understand this and some of the military tactics that we might be seeing is the Republican candidate for Ohio Secretary of State, Marcell Strbich. Now, you're asking why Marcell? Well, we've asked him because his previous life, he was the Air Force intelligence captain, and he can give us some kind of military perspective on what's going on. It's good to see you, Marcell. You also used to give briefings, right, to the Joint Chiefs of Staff when you were actually in uniform, yes?
Absolutely, yeah. This is really quite a time. When you think about this, you wrap this all really well. Election security, national security, border security. The beginning of the compromise of the U.S. election system, which you and team have in-depthly pointed out, began with Venezuela, began with a team of brothers, began with the design of source code. Much of that source code transferred into the United States election system over time and is in use today, the baseline of it. As these companies have consolidated, whether it's Dominion, whether it's Liberty Vote, you have to look at the fact that attacking the United States through what is critical infrastructure, which is the election system, really began 20 years ago. And now it's so instantiated that perhaps the calculus here at the national level is we have to go to the source of this problem so that it's not used against us.
People are worried that this will escalate into something larger, a larger conflict. Of course, President Trump was partially elected because in his first term, he started no new wars, and he de-escalated multiple conflicts that was going on around the world at the time that we were involved in, that many people didn't feel that we should be involved in. So even though I think largely the president's base supports him, but this doesn't look maybe like how I'm told it will look is it's a black ops type of operation. So we won't see conventional warfare in Venezuela. Do you believe that's true?
Well, I think it's a fifth generation information operation right now. And a lot of it is to see what the Maduro regime is going to do. And so you have this force or this presence and the threat of a combined operation. What I could tell you from the Pentagon perspective is a series of military options and choices are probably on offer to the president. And he will choose what he thinks is essential. The question is, what is the objective? Is it regime change or removal? I know that if you look at the Trump administration, even from the time when I served at the Pentagon from 2017 to 2022, we often lean in with a military operation as a negotiating tactic. And so, bringing all of these forces to bear, like you talked about, you've got black ops. I'm sure you have a degree of intelligence from the three-letter agencies operating in and throughout the region to provide that degree of clarity if we need to go precision or tactical. And so right now, this is going to be the question as to what the extent or degree he would want and what objective does he want. Regime change could be very beneficial to the United States in this case. I mean, Venezuela is used as an arm of both Russia and China in our hemisphere. And unlike the forever wars that I fought in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we provided combat mission intelligence support to special forces and a variety of conventional forces, this is something that we can achieve an objective fairly quickly, I think, without getting bogged down. And I'm sure those are the options that the Pentagon is looking at.
The rationale given for, or the justification given right now by the Pentagon for this operation, which we saw a lot of yesterday, was the flow of drugs. Though we understand and know that drug flows go through land routes, they still make their ways into the United States. Colombia is very essential to this. Venezuela, they can get around the Venezuela operation. But you and I, you're one of the few people probably with the background that you have that I talk to that really understands this and has the nexus of the military background with working in cleaning up our elections. So you kind of bring this home all together. This is wonderful, Marcell. And you're running for office now. So you see what's at stake personally. You know, they haven't really explained to the American people that a large part of this is because of the influence in our elections and how the software created in Venezuela was used to rig our elections. Is that a reason? We could have also just changed the way we vote here, right? We could go to paper ballots and we could do one day hand counted. Did we have to? Are we justified in going into Venezuela for the reason that they have interfered in our elections, Marcell?
Yeah, from a national security standpoint, we are, because like you just said, there's a nexus here. There's drug, there's human trafficking and exploitation, and their government has been involved and is running in effect like a cartel government in terms of suppressing and getting these criminal elements into the country affecting us. So from that perspective, there's probably ample justification for us to do that. I think what my candidacy brings is a national security expertise that's been involved tactically, operationally, strategically. And I think that in order to protect this homeland, it leads through the election systems. And there are very few secretaries of state that step into that role that are nothing, that they're just figureheads, right? They are going to go along with the bureaucracy. They're going to go along with the vendors. And I'm going to go in the opposite direction of that. And when I do in Ohio, when this election is in May of 2026, and I'm going up against political insiders who are just seat hopping and term limited, what I'm going to bring is a national security emphasis on elections that is going to restore a degree of common sense risk management to the elections in the areas of voter registration, vote casting, vote counting, and vote certification. And that's because I've studied the process. I've studied the laws here in Ohio, and I know exactly where our weak points are. And so we're not going to allow a foreign entity, China or Venezuela, with their source code that they've developed and sold into the United States. We're not going to let that permeate for long, because we cannot afford, unless we have a third-party independent review. I would say pre-printed hand markable paper ballots watermarked in same-day election. That is my position as President Trump's position, and that's the key. And that's why I've earned the endorsements of General Michael Flynn, because nobody understands fifth generation warfare like myself and him. I've served in many of his units as I came up over the last 20 years in the war on terror. And really the threat begins here at home, and we have to get that under handle before we go too far and venture into the world.
Absolutely agree with you. I think what you just said should resonate with a lot of Ohio voters, because we have too long ignored our national security actually here domestically, terra firma, right here in our own borders. And we can't do anything on the outside until we've secured that. Marcell, one final question. Your race, the election's May 2026. It is December 2025. As of right now, the same systems are in place. Is there time before the Ohio election to secure the elections?
Well, I don't think this year, with the political insiders that are overseeing the system, we're going to be getting rid of electronic vote casting systems. What I can say is there is some laws that passed that will stop counting ballots by mail after Election Day. Ohio did just pass that. And we did close some of the loopholes with mismatched voter registrations getting access to regular ballots. But we don't go far enough in Ohio. None of the Republican states do. They're always tinkering on the margins. They're concerned about their electability. They're concerned that they're going to be attacked by the media. And that's why a political outsider like me is in this race, with the background that I have in emerging technology as well as national security. For me, it truly is selfless, and it is a calling. And for me, I'm just shifting from protecting the country from overseas threats to protecting the country from threats within. And for me, that's well worth it at this stage of my life. And I will commit myself to that for 4 years if the people of Ohio elect me. May 5th, 2026 is our primary. And I could use the support of anyone and everyone who's a patriot, and recognize if they can go to my website at Strbich for Ohio, STRBICH, for spelled out, Ohio.com. I am needing all assistance that I can get. And I'm running a competitive campaign, whether you volunteer, whether you financially contribute today.
And you were very active in getting some proper legislation passed. Like you said, it might not went far enough, but you were very active in pushing for legislation to clean up Ohio's elections. So you have already been in the fight on the ground at a grassroots effort. And you and I have talked about all of this offline for years now. So I know you get it. Marcell, Godspeed. We will be watching, and I know we'll have you back as with this Venezuela situation progresses, because actually we were talking today, me and my team, and planning, and we're like, who really can talk about the election, Venezuela, what we're doing, why, and my team goes, Marcell. So it was like perfect.
Yeah, you're taking me back to my days of operational planning. So I'm happy to do that as this situation unfolds. But thank God for you and this platform. And you're vindicated after all these years of trying to make that case. So happy to come back on and hash this out with you anytime.
Yeah, we'll see. One thing I've noticed over my career, no one really forgives you for being right and early on something. So we shall see. I have heard from a lot of people, though, and it has been heartwarming over the last week. Thank you so much, Marcell Strbich. We'll be watching your race.
Thanks, guys.